Members and guests, it is my honor to introduce, for the purposes of addressing the joint session, His Excellency, the Governor of the State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, Lincoln D. Chafee.
Thank you. That's very warm and kind, and I'm grateful. Mr. Speaker, Madam President, members of the General Assembly, fellow general officers, members of the judiciary, mayors, distinguished guests, and my fellow Rhode Islanders. It is a privilege to speak to you from this chamber, a shrine to the democratic debate that has defined our lively experiment since Rhode Island was founded. Every day that I report to work as your governor, I feel honored by the trust you have placed in me. I intend to show the people of our state that they can again count on their government to make wise financial decisions, protect the common good, and build a 21st century Rhode Island that makes us proud. A Rhode Island that can be great again. In so many ways, Rhode Island has already achieved greatness. In our early centuries, we were a bastion of democracy, zealous in the defense of rights and liberties. With the Industrial Revolution, we became a beehive of entrepreneurial activity, supplying the American people with textiles, tools, and household objects that were essential to the winning of the West, the winning of wars, and the winning of a better life for millions of immigrants. In the 20th century, we Rhode Islanders did far more than our share to help America suppress tyranny abroad and build prosperity at home. The 21st century has been more difficult. We have modernized slowly. We have not adapted to new ideas and new markets. We face high unemployment and huge budget deficits. Our democracy has certainly been lively, but not always functional. Once again, we need to find a new path to greatness. We have to retool and rethink our place in the world. That will not be easy, but none of us in this room was sent here to do a job that we thought was easy. This is a challenge worthy of all our talents and energy. I am reminded of Rhode Island's potential for prosperity simply by walking into this building. Our State House was built at enormous cost over nearly a decade before it was dedicated in 1904. We imported 327,000 cubic feet of white Georgia marble, along with 15 million bricks and 1,300 tons of steel beams. The architects found inspiration from the best features of the U.S. Capitol and the great dome structures of London, Paris, and Rome. But it was designed to be a unique Rhode Island statement, visible from the waters of Narragansett Bay, as well as the streets of Providence, and that our state government was supposed to set a high standard. They didn't want a building that would last for just a few years, and they gave us a structure that has stood the test of time. Like them, we also need to think ahead for the benefit of our children and their children. How wrong it would be if future historians said of us, they responded to the issues of their day but did little to plan for the future. Or even worse, they failed to respond to the issues of their day. We can't allow that to happen. And so I ask you tonight to think about leadership and the hard decisions that it can demand. We have those hard decisions before us, but I believe our better future starts today. By directly confronting our challenges, we may take the first steps on a path to prosperity. Our greatest responsibility this year is to pass a budget that closes the enormous deficit, invests in our schools, and fixes structural problems. In recent years, we've relied on federal funding to close our budget gaps instead of making tough choices about what services our government should provide and how much we can afford. The federal stimulus money has ended, and now we face a deficit of $295 million for the fiscal year 2012. Obviously, we can no longer delay difficult decisions. My budget aims to close the deficit through a combination of revenue enhancements and program cuts, while ensuring that we do not harm the state investments that are necessary for our growth. One of the key areas for new revenue must examine is the sales tax. At 7%, Rhode Island has the highest sales tax in New England. Yet, because we exempt food, clothing, and numerous other items, we also have one of the narrowest sales tax bases in the country. Tonight, I'm proposing a two-tiered sales tax modernization plan that will address our near-term needs while making our state more competitive. While I do not like the idea of imposing new taxes, we must take this vital step to address our structural deficit. As I've mentioned in the past, we need to take a close look at items that are currently exempt from the sales tax. During the campaign, I recommended taxing currently exempt items at 1%, and I remain committed to that plan to help us reduce our deficit. However, I also believe that government should always listen to its citizens. And in response to concerns that the 1% sales tax may pose a hardship on our most vulnerable populations, I propose maintaining our current exemptions for food, gasoline, prescription drugs, and medical devices. All would remain exempt from the sales tax. There is another simple and fair way to increase revenue. Rhode Island businesses are facing unfair competition from internet sales, which are normally not subject to the sales tax. This is no small problem. Rhode Island is projected to lose $70 million in sales tax revenue to internet and other remote sales in the fiscal year 2012. While I believe that internet sales provide consumers with access to more options, they should not enjoy an advantage over our local businesses by being exempt from the sales tax. This is a federal issue, and I am calling on Congress to pass the Main Street Fairness Act, which would allow states to collect sales tax on internet purchases from out-of-state sellers. This legislation would level the playing field between out-of-state internet retailers and Rhode Island businesses. When I was in Washington, D.C. at the National Governors Association Conference, I raised the issue with House Speaker John Boehner and Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. And I will continue to press for passage. The Main Street Fairness Act would aid Rhode Island businesses and would also provide us with enough revenue to repeal the 1% sales tax. Looking ahead, we must also modernize our sales tax so that it adapts to a changing economy. When the sales tax was enacted in Rhode Island in 1947, 60% of U.S. personal household consumption was of goods, while 40% on services. Since then, the United States has moved to a more service-based economy. The average household now spends 70% on services and 30% on goods, yet the items subject to the sales tax have not changed. To modernize our system, I propose expanding our sales tax to include certain services such as dry cleaning, beauty salons, and recreational activities. If we apply our sales tax to a broader base, we can actually lower it to a more competitive rate. And so I propose reducing Rhode Island's sales tax rate from 7% to 6%, returning it to the level This returns it to the level we had in 1990 before the credit union crisis. The new 6% rate would be lower than Massachusetts and the proposed rate for Connecticut, encouraging more people to shop in our state and providing much-needed boost to our retail industry here. It would also send a signal to Rhode Island that Rhode Island is committed to attracting new businesses. Any talk of taxes is painful in a time of recession, but we have to make our state solvent if we are to rebuild. The sacrifices we make today will be bearable if they're shared equally by all our citizens and if they lead clearly and unmistakably to a better future for our children. To avoid solving our problems is not only a failure to discharge our responsibility, it is, in the long haul, more expensive. By confronting these problems immediately, we will show the world that we are serious about returning Rhode Island to greatness. But raising new revenues through a modernized sales tax gets us only halfway to closing the deficit. If we want to balance the budget in both the short and long term, we must make some difficult decisions to cut government spending. Expenditures on health and human services programs are not only the largest portion of the state budget, but they also are the fastest growing. Unless we take action, spending on these programs is on a track to grow by $96 million between 2008 and 2012, driven by rising health care costs and federal maintenance of effort requirements. And in comparison, spending on other state government agencies in Rhode Island climbed only $12 million over the same years. And because of municipal aid was cut by $195 million over the same period of time. It is time to make hard decisions about what services our government should provide and how much we are willing to pay for them. Working with the Office of Health and Human Services, we conducted a top-to-bottom review of all 5 of its departments and identified areas for savings. By reforming payment and service delivery, restructuring existing contracts, and improving oversight of our programs, we can cut spending by over $60 million in the fiscal year 2012, with an even larger amount projected for FY 2013. Many of these reforms are common sense, such as paying providers the same rate for comparable services. The changes will make our health care payment system more transparent and allow us to evaluate what we are getting for our tax dollars. Our goal with these spending cuts was to minimize the impact on beneficiaries, but the cuts will still cause controversy, and I encourage you in the General Assembly to discuss and debate these proposals thoroughly. But at the end of the day, I urge you to recognize that we cannot simply continue to fund our current level of services. I also proposed $20 million in cuts to other departments as a first step in a larger review of their operations and management. State government administers many important programs that affect our citizens, yet we have no systematic way of knowing how well we are doing. I am working with my department directors and their employees to review operations throughout our government. We must identify the most important responsibilities of government, ensure we do them well, and decide how to measure their effectiveness. We will make our departments more accountable and efficient, and then determine which programs are worthy of continued investment and which ones should be modified or eliminated. A combination of revenue enhancements and cuts will help us close the current deficit, but that is not enough. Our budget must promote economic development for long-term growth. One area of particular attention is our state's business climate. For too long, our economic development strategy has been targeted towards individual companies instead of creating an environment that fosters broad economic growth. One such example is the Jobs Development Tax Credit, which lowers the corporate rate for companies that create jobs. While the program is well-intended, in reality, very few companies can navigate its complex reporting requirements, and its effectiveness is difficult to determine. Our corporate tax code also creates an unfair advantage for multi-state companies with operations in Rhode Island by allowing them to send profits out of state to avoid paying taxes here.